We're back then with another Exploring the Lore video for Marvel's Avengers now. In the last video, which was part 1, Monica's Lab, we found out information on cloning, time travel and also the Inhuman origins as well. Now, next up we have a look at the Source of the Terrigen. This is 8 intelligence files in total. Within these files we get some hints towards the origins of the Kree Sentry, a war between the Asgardians and the Kree, and also a potential upcoming civil war between heroes as well, which is really pretty awesome sounding. But what I will do, I'll play each of the 8 files first, and from there, if you're only interested in the files, then you can go about your day after you've hit the like button, of course. But if you want to stay on later on in the video, I'll actually break down and I'll give my own analysis to the files as well. But we'll play the files first, so enjoy these and I'll be back with you in a few minutes.
It's taken a little more time than I would have liked to get back into the old routines. If anyone has noticed that I'm still a bit slower or unsteady on my feet, they've avoided mentioning it. It's a weakness I can't afford to show for much longer. I'm taking more of an interest in the alien artifacts that remain in AIM control following George's little tantrum. We have enough fragments and pieces of the extraterrestrial automaton to safely make a variety of conclusions. Spectrographs confirm the obvious. It's constructed from material originating outside our solar system. It's bipedal, suggesting its creators either share a similar structural morphology with us, or that they wanted to show a familiar form to the natives. It was also damaged at some point in the distant past, presumably when it was made to lay dormant beneath the bay. Given the presence of Terrigen in the automaton, I would say that the connection to the creation of the inhuman genome in the distant past is likely. Our need for Terrigen is only growing, but we need to be cautious drawing any more from the remains of the automaton. There are too many unanswered questions here.
Because I refuse to write it down. I've told you this before, Banner. This is the domain of a skald, not a scribe. These things are not to be trapped in twisted lines on paper. You will make do with legends in the way legends were meant to be told. Half forgotten with body details added. We know that before gods journeyed to Earth, something else visited this world and laid their hands upon humanity. But where we Asgardians cast ourselves as your protectors, these visitors had other aims for mankind. They came to Midgard not from the Nine Realms, but from the cold stars beyond. Know that they were already a great empire in the stars, when time itself was young. No, I will not attempt to affix a date to that statement, and I resent the request. May I? The visitors took whole tribes of man and left an invisible mark upon their very flesh that continued down through generations. We, Asgardians, could sense this glyph on some humans, like an artist's signature, but we did not know what it meant. But it seems you now know exactly what it means. They are your Inhumans.
To the extent that it's possible, I'm keeping the various project heads working on this research siloed and ignorant of each other's findings. It means I have to do most of the synthesis on my own, which takes time I resent spending. But I don't think most of them are ready to accept the implications of what we've uncovered. We have direct evidence of an alien race having visited the Earth nearly 70,000 years ago. At the same time, we have a subspecies of human arising, presumably through intentional extraterrestrial genetic modification. But there's another unpleasant alignment. The modification of inhuman DNA occurs at the same geological time as the Toba event, the largest volcanic eruption in 25 million years. In the decades-long winter after, human populations dropped to as low as 1,000 individuals. All things told, triggering a volcanic eruption of that size would not be terribly difficult for AIM today. It would just be suicidal. So it seems, in order to ensure rapid inhuman propagation, our alien visitors either took advantage of the genetic bottleneck caused by a global catastrophe, or they created it on purpose.
We knew these unseen artists would return to see their great work unfold, but we waited millennia. We fought mighty wars with Jotunheim, and still we waited. We drank and fought and caroused across the realms. We saw the rise and fall of Atlantis, and still we waited. No follow-ups about Atlantis. That's not what this story is about. We believed we were ready to face them. We were wrong. They came from the stars as a single warrior, a champion of iron and glass that scraped the clouds and strode across the world in one mighty bound. We gathered all the heroes of Asgard to defend Midgard from the Star Giant. Many brave Asgardians entered Valhalla that day. The Star Giant fought with weapons unknown and fierce, and we grappled across the sky through day and night. And at last, we cast the Star Giant down beneath the skin of the world. There, he would slumber until the eve of... I am concerned that you're taking these tales at face value, Banner. That is most decidedly not what these stories are for. Yes, I was there. Yes, we conquered a giant from the stars. But if you're looking for truth, I'm afraid it's long lost in the glory of the telling.
Assuming the aliens who created the inhuman genome are the same species who created the automaton beneath the bay, that gives us a rough timeline. The visitors arrive just before or just after a global catastrophe that reduces the human population of the Earth to only a few thousand. They take a portion of the survivors and alter their DNA for some unknown reason. This inhuman genome lies dormant until activated, and human populations begin to grow again, both inhuman and unaltered alike. Thousands of years later, they send the automaton. I surmise it was to observe their experiment. The automaton has weapons unlike any we've ever seen, but the vast majority of its systems are geared towards observation and recording. But when it arrived, someone here on Earth put it down, forcing it to hibernate beneath the bay. I don't like that unknown. There's another player on the board. Finally, just before its destruction, it sent a transmission. We're still trying to make sense of the chaos in the signal, but we can tell where in the sky it was pointing. Somewhere in the large Magellanic Cloud. All of which leaves us with a near inescapable conclusion. Sooner or later, they're coming back.
Here's what we know, thanks to AIM's pilfered research as well as my own rough tests. At some point in the past, aliens visited this planet and altered the DNA of some humans. I know, I had a similar resistance to that, but I can walk you through the various proofs if you need. It's true. I'd always shrugged off the pulp ancient aliens theories because they reeked of post-colonial racist condescension. No one ever second-guesses the architectural achievements of ancient peoples in Europe, but they have a hard time believing humans closer to the equator could have built a pyramid. Transparent, really. But it seems inescapable that aliens did visit. The Inhumans are the result of alien interference. We can test for the Inhuman gene and we can map it. Beyond that, I don't know how to prepare for the future. They're literally everywhere. All over the world, lying dormant, not even knowing what they have inside them. They may never activate in their lifetimes, or we could have another A-Day tomorrow. I don't know. These are uncharted waters.
Hey, Doc. I thought about your offer a bunch, and I just wanted to let you know that I have definitely and definitively decided that I am not ready to make a decision about it yet. Sorry. I just don't know if I could let my family be tested for the Inhuman gene without their consent. I know you would tell me to get samples without them knowing, just like by digging through their trash or whatever, but honestly, that feels even worse. And what if one of them does show up as a carrier? So I learn where this unique DNA in me comes from. Maybe my mom has it. What would I even do with that information? What would we do with it? Does it go on yet another list? I mean, how long until that happens if it hasn't already? Huh. Sounds like I talked myself out of it. Okay. Thank you, but no. We can't change who we are or what we're made of. I'm all in favor of knowing all you can, but that's a decision someone has to make for themselves. All we could learn is who in my family has the potential in them. The potential to be great. I guess I prefer to assume that we all do.
I appreciate you keeping me in the loop with your research, Doctor. I don't particularly like the long-term implications of what you're telling me, but that's not your concern. Fury and I made it our business to know about the locations and potential of all individuals above the baseline. If I'm being frank, the Avengers was as much about keeping you all where we could see you as anything else. Now, of course, those numbers have skyrocketed following A-Day. That alone is a headache worthy of one of Thor's little stories, but it's worse than that, isn't it? There's thousands more of them out there. Just waiting. I know you don't want to hear this, but what we need is a database of known carriers of the Inhuman gene. I'm not proposing we violate anyone's civil rights, but we have a portion of the population carrying alien DNA and a hidden potential for massive destruction. If we're not willing to be prepared, we are guaranteed to be caught off guard. Just think about it. Please.
So these files were particularly interesting because in the first video we actually done on the intelligence files, it was all from the perspective of Scientist Supreme, whereas with this one we get various different perspectives. We get Maria Hill, we get Thor, and we also get Scientist Supreme as well. So there is a fair amount to actually digest in these. Now what I'll do is the ones that were of particular interest, I'll actually bring them back up on screen again, and I've highlighted sections in red that we'll run over that give either interesting information or some hints towards the future. So this first file here is from Scientist Supreme. There's two sections I've marked that I found interesting. The first, it's talking about the Kree Sentry, and it was damaged and it was laying dormant beneath the bay, and obviously if you've watched all the files already you'll see why it's lying dormant, but it's interesting to see that perspective from her. And then you've got the talk of the need for Terrigen is growing as well, and the fact that the source of the Terrigen is in fact the Kree Sentry. This next intelligence file here comes from Thor. So with this one here, the first part I've highlighted, it states, we know that before gods journeyed to Earth, and he'll be referring to the Asgardians when he says that, something else visited this world and laid their hands upon humanity. That will of course be the Kree, but where we Asgardians cast ourselves as protectors, these visitors had other aims for mankind. So it's pretty awesome having the Asgardians as the protectors of humanity and the Kree the ones that are actually manipulating them. But next up we have a section here that's stating they came to Midgard, not from the Nine Realms, but from the cold stars beyond. Know that they were already a great empire in the stars when time itself was young, so it's really indicating how long Kree have been around and how powerful they actually are. We're then back to Scientist Supreme for the next file here. So it starts off, we have direct evidence of an alien race having visited the Earth nearly 70,000 years ago. So before it was talking about they visited before the gods actually appeared, but here we're getting a more specific date to this. It states at the same time we have a subspecies of human arising, presumably through intentional extraterrestrial genetic modification. Next up, the section here stating, but there's another unpleasant alignment. The modification of inhuman DNA occurs at the same geological time as the Toba event, the largest volcanic eruption in 25 million years. In the decades long winter after, human population dropped to as low as 100,000 individuals. So it's not necessarily clear whether or not the Kree actually engineered this event to lower the population of the human race, or they simply took advantage of it. We're back to Thor for this next file. At the top there we get a mention of Atlantis. That's interesting, and of course Atlantis would be tied in with Namor if we ever actually see him. And then next up we have a description of the fight between the Asgardians and the Kree Sentry, something that I would love to see as future DLC. That would be absolutely amazing. Imagine been able to play, for example, even if it was for a short duration, the likes of Odin going up against a fully active Kree sentry. Incredible stuff. But if we read this out, it states they came from the stars as a single warrior, a champion of iron and glass that scraped the clouds and strode across the world in one mighty bound. We gathered all the heroes of Asgard to defend Midgard from the Star Giant. Many brave Asgardians entered Valhalla that day. The Star Giant fought with weapons unknown and fierce, and we grappled across the sky through day and night. At last we cast the Star Giant down beneath the skin of the world. There he would slumber until the eve of, and that will be when the point when MODOK actually resurrects him. Now, of course, it's describing a battle here with Asgardians struggled against the Kree sentry, yet at the end of the game, an embiggened Miss Marvel was able to beat it. But at that point, the Kree sentry was being reactivated by MODOK and controlled by MODOK. It wasn't really the original Kree sentry that the Asgardians were fighting. Otherwise, I imagine Miss Marvel wouldn't have stood a chance at all, especially not if it's stating here that various Asgardians actually died fighting this particular Kree sentry. We're back to Scientist Supreme for this next file here. So if we jump to the middle section, it's stating thousands of years later they sent the automaton. So this gives us an idea that it was potentially lying below the bay, defeated for around about, could be 65,000, 60,000 years, a fair amount of time there. It's also stating as well that the automaton had weapons unlike any we've ever seen, but the vast majority of its systems are geared towards observation and recording, so it wasn't necessarily something sent as an offensive weapon, but yet the Asgardians struggled against it so much, so that's really quite interesting. And then the next section is, when it arrived, someone here on Earth put it down. So that is, of course, the Asgardians. And then the final part I found of interest in this file was, finally, just before its destruction, it sent a transmission. And this is during the post-credit scene, where I actually see something actually shoot out of it into space. You can see the screenshot of it now. But she says, we're still trying to make sense of the chaos in the signal, but we can tell where in the sky it was pointing. So that, without a doubt, points towards the Kree are going to be coming back. And it would work out nicely that you would of course have the Kree come back, and then you would have to have Captain Marvel that would come to the game at the same time as well. These last two files here really hint towards a potential civil war for me. So if we read out this section here, it's between Bruce Banner and Kamala Khan in regards to she wants her family to be tested or not for the Inhuman gene. So the section that really I found interesting was, I just don't know if I could let my family be tested for the Inhuman gene without their consent. So it's important it wouldn't be with their consent. I know you would tell me to get the samples without them knowing, just like digging through their trash, whatever, but honestly that feels even worse. And then we have this next file here between Bruce Banner and Maria Hall. I'll read the highlighted section. I know you don't want to hear this, but what we need is a database of known carriers of the Inhuman gene. I'm not proposing we violate anyone's civil rights, but we have a portion of the population carrying alien DNA and a hidden potential for massive destruction. So of course, when it looked like the Avengers were a threat, that Bruce Banner was actually the one that sided with the government and the people that wanted to shut the Avengers down. So we're going to have a bit of conflict here between Kamala Khan and also Bruce Banner, because they have such a great relationship. However, you can see from the previous file that Kamala is very much against her family being tested for the gene, whereas Bruce is having a conversation with Maria in regards to actually creating a database of people that will potentially have the Inhuman gene without them. So for me, that really does point towards an upcoming civil war. But that's everything we found within this set of intelligence files. If you enjoyed this video, take the time to hit the like and share button and leave a comment below, because engagement does help actually drive how much YouTube recommends videos on the channel. It's not very good at recommending them at the moment, unfortunately, but if you leave a comment it does help that. But let me know what you thought of all this in the comments below, and thanks for tuning in, stay safe, and I'll see you all again soon.